Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining for another amazing topic of conversation. Thank you to my sponsors, the Health Channel and Thermo Fisher Scientific with their program Ready, Check, Go, and the I Remember bracelet, which part of their giving back, some of the proceeds of their sales will go back to sponsoring the Power of the Heels Foundation and the Loving Me More program. So, welcome everyone. And Deborah, thank you so much for accepting this
Of course.
amazing topic of conversation. And today, there is something that we've been hearing about the whole um, big resignation. And everybody thinks that the big resignation, there is a misconception that the big resignation is about getting paid by the government, which is completely the opposite. The government, what they did is they gave some aid during the last 2 years to help with COVID. And what people are doing is not the big resignation. On the contrary, is the big reinventing. It's the big reinvention or re-evolution.
Yeah.
And this is why I wanted to talk to you today, because you have helped so many people like reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
So, first of all, welcome,
Thank
Debra
you.
Cooper. And my first question to you, so you can tell us a little bit about yourself. You have reinvented yourself several times.
More times than I can count, Gladys.
I
You could,
know.
s- I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I'm actually a serial reinventor, if you will, because I just think that's our purpose in life, to be honest with you, that we have one life to live, and why not try on many hats? And why, go to the societal thing that you're just a mom or you're a wife or you should be helping the family. I
Should.
have yeah, it's all the shoulds.
Yeah.
And what I'm helping people to do is excavate their passions. And if you ask me a little bit about myself, as I actually did not go the same route as many people. I've really been an entrepreneur since I was 12 years old, and I can go into many stories, but the bottom line is I always found something that I wanted to do, that a niche that I felt needed to be filled by because other people wanted it. I mean, I started my own career very late in life, like at 32. I started my own public relations and marketing company. And I think it was there I was realizing after 30 years, I was promoting other people's dreams, desires, whether it was their business or themselves, to get their 15 minutes of fame, to become known, to bring product to market. So I really created the art of the pitch. What is somebody about? What is their story? So for 30 years, I've told stories for other people. And then I had moved to New Jersey, and I was kind of stuck in a suburban lifestyle that I didn't realize was not for me. And so I created a company called Daycation Today. And it was for working moms that dropped their kids off at 8:30 and had to pick up at 2:30. But instead of going to the market and life, and Soul Cycle and the cleaners, I wanted to create a day for themselves. Maybe it was a cooking class, maybe it was a yoga class in all the surrounding towns that like New Jersey has, so that moms felt that they had a day for themselves. And that was hugely successful. And then I came back to Florida, continued with my PR business until one day I got a call from my cousin, actually, who said, "My daughter's graduating from Syracuse. Can you help her get an internship?" And at that point, I started to see that kids coming out of college or going, still in college, didn't have a clue of who they were and what they were doing. And so
They
for the,
wanted,
what's that?
or what they wanted.
Oh,
Because
did
when
not
you're
have a
out of
clue.
college, nobody knows what you want.
Right. I mean, some do, but for most things,
Yeah.
a lot of kids don't. And I think, and I own it, I think it comes from a lot of our parenting that we wanted to pave the yellow brick road for our kids. We want them to go to Oz. And what I didn't realize, it's the journey. that they have to fail, they have to fall, they have to find, that's the way you find yourself. Similarly, what we're talking about now, and then it sort of pivoted in to women, a lot of women in their 50s, 60s saying, Debra, I've been a banker, I've been in finance, I've been this, I've been that, and
I
it's no
don't
longer
want it.
working for me.
Correct. I don't want it anymore. I want to change.
Right.
But people are afraid.
Correct. They are afraid. And so I take the same sensibility I did for 30 years in bringing somebody to market, and we start to excavate. Because here's the thing, Gladys, I have found out. When kids grow up, it's always, what football team are you on? What, tennis team? What have you achieved? What have you achieved? And no, and similar to us, right? It was, what are you going to be? What major are you going to be? What do you want to do when you're 16? What major are you choosing after freaking 2 years of college? But no one ever asked us, who are you?
Or what do you want?
Right. But
What
but
is your
what you
dream?
want comes from, who are you? And
Yes.
we never stop to ask that. It's, what do you want to do? Well, how the hell are we supposed to know what we want to do when we don't even know who the freak we are? And when you
Correct.
think about it, right?
Yes.
And it could be somebody at 5, I want to be an astronaut. Well, that's great. Let's nurture that. Maybe it then goes into something else. But instead, it's like, you can't be an astronaut. You'd be really good at this. And we tell people, you, instead of asking, what do you think? And similarly, as wives, as mothers, we never were asked that.
But
And
remember a long time ago that there was a preconception
yeah,
that in order to succeed, you had to be a lawyer or a doctor.
or an Indian
Uh,
chief.
or correct, but the other careers didn't count. And now, for example, a chef is an extremely successful person
Right.
and
Everybody can be successful
can
right
be
now.
successful in whatever they want.
That's right. That's right. I say that, and I hate to mention COVID as like a silver lining
But
because,
it
look, we know
is.
the devastation. But in my world where I help people excavate who they are and help them with finding their dream career, people's dreams careers are right here now. It is not like we got to send the resume in and is somebody going to like me. Interviews now are conversations. Interviews now are, do I like you? Do I want to hang out with you? That's what it's based on to find a job.
Yeah, but some of them are also applying. Well, we'll talk about the applying online and how to navigate through the whole thing because it is very different to sit in front of a person and interview a one on one than just sending a resume and getting all the algorithms to think for you. So,
Right.
no.
Well, I'm a big proponent of not that. I'm a big proponent of, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And again, in this COVID environment, if you will, it is networking. It is finding your tribes and your communities like you and I have, Gladys. That's why I'm able to be on the show today. And that's why, you've given me many clients and vice versa. It's because we've created a community together that's allowed us to share that, to send in Indeeds and glass doors and all of that. I am not a proponent because I don't base it on algorithms. I like to know people, vet people, and then, as I always say, I open the door for you. And that's where we are today. It's who's going to open that door for you, get you vetted. So when you walk in, you're done.
Correct. And there's the other part that when COVID hit, restaurants were closed,
Yeah.
events were done.
Yes,
And it's not that people don't want to work, but people had to reinvent themselves,
that's correct.
even if they didn't want to. So a lot of the jobs that went from being the gig um, job for an event or the restaurant server, they had to literally look for something else. And what are they doing now? They're working with DoorDash, Instacart, all of the online platforms, Uber, and they found out that they could create a schedule for themselves,
That's right.
especially women
That's
that
right.
that needed to take care of their kids
That's right.
and couldn't go back to the workforce. And they created, so they found out that there is a life out there beyond what you had. to do?
To be honest with you, it's the best life. I was just watching 60 Minutes and they had the thing, the best, the big resignation, like you just said. And there was a woman on there who was trying to raise her kid, but and a lot of people on this podcast can relate to this, but she had to go to a job at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it was like if her kid was sick or whatever, she had to go to the daycare. And she told her husband, during this resignation,
Right.
she's like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And she became an assistant, an online virtual assistant to 3 different companies. And she always wanted to be an English teacher and now could do it online at a vocational school. I forgot where she was, Maryland or something. So she's making more money than she ever did in her job and has more flexibility. And that's what I try to do to help people because it's here, it's now, it's real, and we can get it done.
So let me touch on something that is happening, especially to women. A lot of the women make their choice to stay home and raise their kids.
Yeah.
And raise their kids, have a family. So they have been out of the workforce between 5 and 10 years while they raised 2 or 3 kids. And after the kids were grown up, they want to go back to
Yeah.
the workforce. And they feel that they have been penalized. Like, okay, you raised your kids, you did an amazing job, but now you failed because
No.
you were, but those are a lot of the companies, and there are real examples of women. I have a very good friend of mine that actually took off to raise her kids, and when she went to look for a job, they said, "No, you were out for 7 years. What did you do?" Like making you feel that number one, she lost her time. Number two, that raising your kids was not acceptable, and that all the talent that she has cannot go back to the workforce.
Okay, Gladys, here's the thing with that. In my opinion, that is a huge misnomer. And what she needs to do is cultivate, craft, and tell her story. So, in a situation like that, instead of coming from the negative, well, yeah, I was just raising my family, I would have helped her on her resume to talk about what she actually did in her family, all the skills, organization,
Correct.
cultivation. I could help. I mean, it would be fantastic. And this is working today, where if somebody has been out of work like that, they can actually put on their resume a title, mother, whatever, and all the examples of what she's done that totally relate to a business and be able to tell it in a story form with confidence and conviction. Do you understand? That's how we tell stories today. And I have a person, as I was telling you before, there was a girl, there was a big fair at the Boca Beach and Tennis Club because they put in like millions of dollars and the woman went and they said, why do you want to work here? That's always a line somebody says. And what I help is a woman like that to look at what she's done for her family, put it into a resume. So when they ask that question, tell me a little bit about yourself, or I see you haven't worked, she'd have a story about that. What I've done in the last 5 years, you probably haven't done in your business in 10. Do you know something like that? Coming from strength,
5:15.
coming from confidence, coming from, I don't care if I've been out of work for 5, I've done more in those 5 years than your business has probably done in 20. And here's the value I bring into that. Similarly, this woman at Boca Beach and Tennis Club went in and they asked her, "Oh, I see there's a big, disparity in your thing." And she said, they said, "Why do you want to work here?" She goes, "Because I have a personality. I have been doing this and this and this, and I've been doing it for my family. And now I want to bring it into the working world." They hired her on the spot. And that's what women our age, if you tell it with conviction, if you are confident in what you've done, you bring that, you'll be hired.
No, correct. And you have the passion to want to go back.
That's right.
That's, I call it the biggest ingredient of what anything that you want to do.
That's correct.
So let me ask you, you're helping now women over 65 to reinvent yourself.
That's right.
So give us a few examples so that we can encourage those women that have actually either retired or been let go at that stage and they think that I'm not gonna make a dollar anytime soon because I'm done. No.
That's right. First of all, I have to tell you something, Gladys. In my world that I do, retire, all of those words, they don't exist anymore. And I like to really rewire people's brains around those notions of society. It does not exist in this day of COVID. I have a client right now who was a banker, made a lot of money, six figures for her family. And like you said during COVID, it's like, kind of, what am I doing? I hate what I'm doing. This is what happens to a lot of us as women. We end up, because we had to take certain jobs, over the years, it's like it becomes anxiety ridden. It's like, I cannot do another day of this. But at that point, she really didn't know what she wanted to do. So we explored, who was she as a child? Who were you when you were in your room? The time just flew until your mom called you for dinner. That's where your passion comes from. Maybe it was drawing, maybe it was cooking, maybe it was whatever. But I go back to that time. And what she found is she loved healing. She loved making people feel good. She had that. And now she has put it into the wellness thing, the wellness field, and doing amazing. And I just did a treatment from her the other day. And I just walked in. I went, oh my God, this is who you were meant to be all along. Like, you have a talent that has been crushed down by the whole family paradigm, if you will. I
Correct,
have
because
another
that
client.
wasn't. That
Yeah,
wasn't what you were supposed to do. You were a banker. You were doing really good, great as a banker, but coming home every night and not feeling happy,
that's right.
that is what the whole big resignation is all about.
That's right. It's, what is your passion? Who are you? What is your passion? And how can we help you reconstruct that so that you can be happy in your life? Because look at, when we're happy and we're loving what we're doing, it spreads to everything in the family.
Everybody's happy.
Yep.
Um,
I just want to express too, I
oh,
have
you have
another story
another,
about,
yes, you have
yeah,
another
no,
story that I want to hear.
yeah, because I think that your audience would be interested. I got a call from a 67-year-old woman in LA.
Correct.
She had just lost her husband like 2 weeks before. She had an estranged daughter, completely, like, what do I do now? She was an interior designer. She actually owned a really cool store in Beverly, like in Santa Monica, but she had been away from it for a while. We reconstructed her. I actually opened a door for her for some people I knew that were selling a house, wanting to redecorate their house in Malibu. And she's like, well, what do I say? I found out she was a dairy farm, like, grew up on a dairy farm. And we really excavated, what did that mean for her to grow up on a dairy farm? It was about being serene and what have you. She told that story to the potential people who wanted to hire her and saying, I grew up in a dairy farm. I want to bring that sensibility of serenity and quiet into your home. They hired her on the spot.
Correct,
And this is
because
a
you
person who's
changed
been
the
out of work for
story.
5 years.
You changed the story. You changed the
Change the story.
narrative
That's correct.
and brought in the passion that they had. And this
That's
is
right.
what we need to do now.
Right. And who they are. She's like, I can't say that. I go, yes, you can say that, because people want to know, in this thing of COVID now too, Gladys, it's not so much what you do, but again, I go back to, who are you? Do I like you? Do I want to work with you? Are you someone I connect with? It's about building rapport. That's the age of this COVID. Am I building rapport with you?
Yeah. And also acknowledging the fact that either you were happy at what you were doing or you were not happy at what you were doing. So it's basically being true to your values.
That's correct.
That's the whole thing. Um, there is a title of a book which I will recommend to everyone, and I'm also trying to get her to do an interview with us. And the title of the book is What Would You Do If You Were Not Afraid?
Yep. And you know what? I'm
So,
actually writing a book called How to Shift Your Shit, How to Lose the Bull and Gain the Fulfillment of Your Life. Because I know you laugh, but we
no,
all,
I'm laughing at the title because I love different titles.
right? But we all need at some point to shift our, what. And
Yeah,
because it's like people go, oh shit, they use that word so much to define themselves, but I want to reframe and shift it, because if we did lose the bull, we could gain the fulfillment of our lives. And I show ways, like we're speaking about today, of how to do that.
So, for example, a mom that has her kids coming out of college,
Yeah.
looking at the workforce, looking at, oh my God, what am I going to do? What's going on? What would you tell them?
Well, what I do, I'll tell you what I tell them. It's more I help them to tell themselves. This paradigm too, kind of what you're saying, Gladys, is, well, let me help you. I'm going to tell you. This is not a world of telling anyone anything anymore. It is about looking inside yourself and asking yourself the questions to come up with what you feel and or what you're passionate about. So what I start with, I have a thing called the to-do list. And the to-do list is I ask those questions. What did you do in your room that made you happy, that gave you joy when your mother called you for dinner? And there's some other questions, little prompt questions. And then it's just a brain dump. I love doing this. I love doing this. And if I tell you, Gladys, every time I do this to-do list with a client, there is a moment where there's tears, there's sadness, but then there's tears. It's like, oh my God, I completely forgot that
That
this
I
thing brought
enjoy
me
this.
joy.
Yeah.
And from there, we then start to craft some stories around that. Then there was a guy, I just have to interject, but there was a guy I just worked with. And I said, what did you love to do, Alan? He said, I love to do puzzles. And then I said, well, what do you want to do in life? And he said, I want to do statistics. And and I showed him that by doing puzzles in his room, and he would say the harder the better, is what brought you to statistics. So when you're interviewing and someone says, tell me a little bit about yourself, instead of I'm Alan, I did this, I raised a family, like whatever, you could say, I'm so glad you asked that. Because when I was 5 years old, I remembered how much I loved doing puzzles. And then throughout the years, and you bring that thread to data analytics, because I love putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
That's a really good story. So, my last question, because we're not going to have more time for
Okay.
one more, is how do people apply for jobs when you can only apply for a job online? How you overcome the algorithm thing?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do, again, at your career design lab, we do a whole thing, networking and connections, because it's a strategy today. I will tell you, it's a strategy. So I would never ever send just something on Indeed and Glassdoor. What you want to do is look at who's interviewing you. You can look at on LinkedIn, you can Google them, you can Facebook them, get a little background on who they are. Then I teach how to write a killer cover letter, so that you bring in, hi, I saw this online and I see that you talk with them about them first. I see that you do podcasts and you did this and I want to get into that. So you kind of identify first who you're going to be interviewing with. Then you put in your story. Again, you don't want to go, I did this, and I did this.
Create a
It's
personal connection.
personal, make it, that's right, make it as personal as you can. Then what I would do, if you had to apply through Glassdoor or Indeed, which a lot of companies do, you pick up that phone. It's called old school. And you pick up that phone and you go, I sent a thing to you guys, Indeed. Did you get it? You could walk in with your resume. And even if they say, oh, well, you have to do it online, just say, I know. And thank you so much for, I have done it online. I hadn't heard back from you. I thought I'd take a moment to bring you my resume.
Generation doesn't pick up the phone. It's either text or email. They
No.
don't even want to get on a phone. You try calling and they don't answer.
Well, that's why if you texted or emailed, I just had 4 of that today. I asked somebody to make a connection for me. Debra, meet Gladys. Gladys, meet Debra. I'm having Taylor speak to you as she is looking for a job in this. Would you mind taking the time to allow her to make a phone call? There's lots of ways of making e-introductions now, or she applied online on Indeed. Would you mind taking a look at her thing? It is all who you know today, because sending things just randomly
Or
to
who
Indeed.
you asked, or who
What's
you
that?
ask.
That's right.
Because, for example, in our program for the Power of the Heels, the girls that we have, they're in high school and they're looking out for internships.
Yeah.
I told them, like, this is my cell phone, call me and we can help you. And actually, Two did actually pick up the phone and call me and said, I need help. I want this internship. They both already have an internship going.
Right.
Is it's just ask, what's the worst thing that can happen? They say no. And you move on and you ask the next person until you hear a yes.
But Gladys, this is the generation too that doesn't always, I get this every day. I don't want to bother them. I
No,
didn't want to, I don't know. I don't want to like stalk them.
and
And I
it's
have to
not
reconstruct
stalking.
that.
It's not stalking. We didn't
Right.
have email. We didn't have this. We just had a phone. The worst thing that can happen is they won't answer.
Right. A lot of kids though have like imposter syndrome. They have feeling not good enough.
Imposter. What's imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome is where, like you're saying, kids can't pick up the phone because they feel not good enough about themselves to be able to tell their story. That's why telling your story is so important, because it really does give you the confidence to pick up that phone instead of what somebody's going to say to you. You will have it in your body to be able to express yourself. A lot of people just aren't able to do that because they're not feeling good enough about themselves. Their mind says, who do you think you are to pick up the phone and call this place? What have you done in your life? And that goes for people our age or younger.
It doesn't matter. And I'm
That's
going to
right.
tell you a story so hopefully it can inspire some of those people that don't pick up the phone. When my kids were growing up, there was one school. It was a preschool that I wanted them to attend, and they only accepted 6 kids.
Yeah.
And that year, there were a lot of siblings, so they were not accepting anymore.
Yeah.
I literally called the woman
Yeah.
every single day for a year. And one day, well, finally I gave up. There wasn't. And she said, no, I don't have, I'm sorry, I don't have a spot. I don't have a spot. So I gave up and I went to my second choice. Immediately after I just signed the check and the whole thing on my second choice, she called me and said, I have a spot for you. One of the one of the siblings is not coming in until the following year. I have a spot for you. I was so thrilled, but if I hadn't, of course, that was stalking. Because
No, that's not stalking. That's getting what you want. And there is a huge difference.
when I got pregnant with my daughter and I told her I'm pregnant, don't call me. You're calling a sibling.
That's so funny.
She remembered. So yes, you need to call. You need to you need you need to let them know that if it's something so important, you have to pursue it.
But Gladys, too, you need to bring value every time,
Correct.
similar to what you did with this woman. My job in PR was to call Good Morning America, CNN, the Today Show, and I'd speak to the producer and I'd go, "Oh, I see that you're doing something. Here's a story," and they'd go, "No, it
No,
doesn't seem interesting." I would literally call back the next day. Oh, I just saw this on something else. And I would keep bringing new information. So I'm making them look good. And I swear to God, I would able to take no's into yeses. And they would say to me, thank you for being so tenacious. You were being tenacious. It's not stalking. It's getting what you want by bringing value every time you pick up the phone.
that's the whole secret. You
Yeah.
have to bring some value
Yeah.
for them because this is a partnership. It's a win-win situation for everyone.
That is correct.
So it's a real partnership. And with that, our time is over.
Oh,
Deborah, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you want to watch all the episodes, please subscribe to my channel. They're now on YouTube. So it's Gladys Mizrahi. Please subscribe and until next week. Thank you, everyone. And above all, stay safe.
thank you.